Hello, welcome to globaleye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. It has been over 1,000 days since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the situation has seen a dramatic escalation this week. Russia has confirmed that it fired an experimental hypersonic missile at Ukraine. This was in response to the United States and United Kingdom allowing Kyiv to strike Russian territory with advanced Western weapons. US President Biden allowed the use of long-range missiles after Russia deployed 10,000 North Korean troops in Ukraine. Russia's President Putin has warned that Moscow would have the right to strike the Western nations that provided Kyiv weapons to hit Russia. Putin said that civilians would be warned in advance of further strikes. With these weapons, he added that the conflict has acquired element of a global character. Leaders from Ukraine and NATO are set to hold talks in Brussels over this attack. Responding to Putin, Ukrainian President Zelensky said use of the new missile amounted to a clear and severe escalation. He reiterated that Russia's move called for strong worldwide condemnation. To discuss that and more, we're now joined by Ambassador Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the United States, and Ruslan Bortnik, director at the Ukrainian Institute of Politics. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Ambassador Meera Shankar, if I can begin with you, things not looking very good, but the warning that Putin is sending to the West right now that we've revised our nuclear doctrine. If a nuclear state is helping a non-nuclear state like Ukraine to attack Russia, then they can invoke their nuclear doctrine. This is the message from Putin. They've also struck Ukraine with a intercontinental ballistic missile. What's the big message? Is there a real worry of a severe escalation?
Look, I think that this reduces the nuclear threshold. Though Putin has been a little measured in his response, primarily because I think the incoming Trump administration may follow a different policy. You know, many leaders close to President Trump have condemned the decision by the outgoing president, Joe Biden, to allow Ukraine to use longer-range missiles supplied by US, and then this has been followed by a similar decision by UK and France to strike territory inside Russia. Till now, Ukraine was using these to strike at Russian forces within Ukrainian territory. So this marked a significant shift in the conflict, and the West said that this was in response to Russia's deployment of 10,000 North Korean troops in Kursk, which marked an escalation. And the sad thing is that it's like an escalatory ladder from both sides. And while I'm sure that neither side wants to really trigger a very sharp escalation and increase the danger of a nuclear exchange, you know, this kind of escalatory, counter-escalatory steps on both sides can lead to an inadvertent, exchange. So I think it's dangerous for both the countries concerned. It's dangerous for the world. And the sooner that the conflict is halted and negotiations begin for a diplomatic solution, I think the better it will be for both countries and the world.
Right. Ruslan, if I were to get you in at this stage, Ukraine has been seeking permission from the West, from UK and the United States to use these long-range missiles against Russia. Do you feel this gives Ukraine greater leverage in any negotiation? Because the big worry and what everyone is talking about is hopefully this will not trigger off World War III.
Hello, colleagues. I don't know, but I think this new escalation will make the real negotiation process closer than it was before. like Caribbean crisis in 16th last century. This crisis, this rocket crisis, this real threat of possible use of nuclear weapon against Ukraine maybe will faster the behind the curtains, behind the scenes process which leading to the possible Putin's-Trump negotiation, Trump-Zelensky negotiation. Nowadays, Ukraine has a significant risk that Ukraine can lose Western support after the elections in the United States, and only escalation, a new escalation with a deeper involvement in this conflict. Ukrainian Western allies gives Ukraine more chances to balance the situation in the front line, which is very bad for Ukraine now, because Russia is continuing her offensive operation, and Russia is successful in it, unfortunately, in Donbass. But Russian counter-reaction on Ukrainian use of long-range weapon showed us few signals. The first signal is Russia is ready to use nuclear weapon against Ukraine. And the second signal is a signal special for Trump. Russia said that Russia used a middle-range rocket, which was previously was prohibited by the special agreement between Soviet Union and United States. Agreement treatment of prohibition of small middle-range rockets, and this agreement was broken by the Trump in 2019. Maybe it is an invitation from the Russian side to negotiation to the Trump directly also.
Okay, let me go back to Ambassador Meera Shankar. Ambassador Meera Shankar, you said this possibly has something to do with North Korean troops supporting Russian troops in this war against Ukraine. But anything more about the timing of the support to Ukraine? Because Ukraine has been seeking permission from Biden, and Biden has been saying no till now. But giving permission at this stage, when the new president in the United States is going to take over in about 2 months or so, this clearly muddies the water for the next president. Why do you think Joe Biden has taken this decision at this stage?
Look, if you want to put a good view on it, then it is to help Ukraine have a better bargaining position, because Russia is getting ready with the help also of North Korean troops to try to expel Ukrainian troops from Kursk, which is a region in Russia which Ukraine has held militarily. And this could be a bargaining chip in any subsequent negotiations. If you want to take a malign view of the decision, then it certainly complicates President Trump's desire to halt the conflict quickly and to commence discussions to find an end to the war. So there are two possible reasons, as I said. But from the Russian point of view, since this is an attack on Russian territory, they have, as you said, indicated clearly that any nuclear weapon state supporting an attack by another country on Russia would be considered as their participation in the war. And secondly, Russia has also changed its nuclear doctrine to say that if there are major attacks on their land, even if it is conventional, they reserve the right to respond with a nuclear retaliation. Now, the missile that Russia has launched, sorry, if I may just add here clarification, it's not a long-range intermediate, it's not a intercontinental ballistic missile, as Ukraine was initially alleging. Russia has clarified that it's a hypersonic medium-range missile which used a conventional warhead. And the US has confirmed that it was a medium-range missile. Your previous speaker had mentioned that the treaty on intermediate nuclear forces, which had been signed between Gorbachev and Reagan, actually led to both countries removing and destroying their medium-range missiles in Europe because the warning time was very low. But then President Trump walked out of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, and US has said it is going to place missiles in Western Europe. So the Russians are also signaling that they too can actually go in for redeploying and reusing medium-range missiles in Europe. Now, that's again going to lower the nuclear threshold there.
Okay.
So I do feel that it would be good if, this escalation can be brought to a halt.
Yes, this escalation needs to be brought to a halt because we're entering into very worrying times. Unfortunately, we've run out of time on this segment, but I'd like to thank Ruslan and Ambassador Meera Shankar for joining us on the program. We're taking a short break here on globaleye, but when we return, we're going to speak about the US court, which has indicted Gautam Adani and others for allegedly bribing Indian officials. What legal recourse would they have now? And what exactly is the basis of this investigation? A discussion when we're back.